That's a battle for position. That's for the lead. They've run down long finally. They have finally caught him up, and this allows the 48 to finally get into it. And he is going to take the advantage of the chance. He is going to get by Acosta. Is he also going to be able to get by the lead? It looks like he might be able to get two positions as one. He gets a hello from the 5 behind. No wreck, though. Just a little bit of contact. The bumping and rubbing might actually shove Octavio Rondoletto back to the lead for the first time in some time, and indeed, Octavio to the point. Big wreck, and Marty and more cars. It looks like John Keefe is in there, and Gabbiani is carrying him. Literally carrying him.
Car 19's got a new hat. I wouldn't expect to be a Marlboro branded hat, but there you go. Unfortunately, John Keefe having to be a passenger all the way, literally, through that entire incident. That is worthy of a replay right there.
He got himself a cowboy hat. Bradley Hawley not defending. He's going to leave the door open. Michael Michaud is going to try and take it. He sends it in deep. Will they make contact, or are they going to keep it clean? They're going to keep just enough space between them. And for the second lap in a row, Hawley is able to hold his nose ahead.
Able to hold his nose ahead, and he knows that the advantage is now going to switch back to him through Rauch. That is Michaud trying to carry that momentum around the high side. Isn't able to do so. Dives back in the line, looking for a little bit of a crossover there. Starts to get his nose down to the inside into Verth. He's going to go for the maneuver. Hawley, able to hold it out, but he may run wide here at the exit. Will that give an advantage back? No, but it will give it back to Boucher, who's now able to make the move on Michaud. A little bit of a look there from Parson, and that's just him trying to poke his nose, see if he can get any sort of a head fake, and he got one.
He goes a little bit wide, sent it in deep. He's got the inside into the second corner, though, as Partonen could be able to complete the pass. He tries to pinch him down, but gives him a fair bit of space. The battle continues down into turn 3. He's on the inside. They're going to bang wheels. They come together. He knocks him back straight, but Partonen is now your leader. Here comes Glover, up the inside, down through the final turn and onto the front stretch, almost pushing him off the track. He has to slow up. We're going to go 3 wide as to the inside of both of them. Bergstrom says, thank you very much. I am going to snatch up P7 with that.
Oh, here comes Nicholson. He's going to look around the outside, going through that first sector. Has to look for the crossover now. He's going to go down to the inside.
It continues into turn 3. They go wheel to wheel. Track switches back. He's actually got a nose ahead, but just no grip on the marbles. Almost goes out into the grass, but he's holding on just barely. Jeremy Miller's absolute stomping left many with bruised egos at Bristol, but lapping the whole field at a half-miler is one thing. Trying to achieve that here at a super speedway will be a totally different deal. In fact, finding distance from the pack at all may prove supremely tough. Let's see who can tap into their inner Earnhardt as we get ready to watch round 8 of the Outsider Racing League. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Tebbin. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. If you've never seen a race at Talladega before, you're in for a treat. Let's head to our track guide to find out a little bit more. Welcome to Talladega Superspeedway. Not satisfied with his incredible accomplishments with Daytona, Bill France Sr. plucked up a plot of land in Alabama east of Birmingham and had one goal: make it faster. At 2.66 miles and with 33 degrees of banking, he succeeded. Not only is the banking steeper and the lap longer than Daytona, but the track itself is wider as well. As you'd expect, this makes for one of the most unique styles of racing motorsports has ever seen. The slipstream allows drivers to stay with one another so easily that it becomes less about the speeds each driver can reach and more about the strategy of racing in a pack. Bump drafting is a technique in which the car behind actually pushes the car in front so that both are able to reach higher speeds. And side drafting is another in which the drivers use the air off the sides of their cars to slow their opponents down. Staying out of trouble is always a difficult aspect of superspeedway racing, and it's not uncommon to see drivers intentionally move to the back of the pack to avoid the chaos. In fact, the high speeds make large wrecks so hard to avoid that the term "the big one" has become commonplace to refer to the almost inevitable multi-car pileups the circuit is known for. Also, entering pit lane is its own skill, which requires practice in order to slow the car up as quickly and safely as possible. Keeping the car clean and in contention is the main goal for much of the event. Then the final few laps, it's a race to the line, with any alliances usually dissolving and the driver's urge to win taking over. Known for gobbling up cars and ruining a driver's good day in the blink of an eye, Talladega truly holds the title of the biggest and baddest track on the NASCAR circuit. Well, Joey, it's back to a super speedway once again for the second time this season. But Dega's a little bit bigger, a little bit faster than Daytona. How do you think these next-gen cars are going to be trying to race in packs like this?
Well, after we've experienced some races with the current Cup package at Talladega on iRacing, it's not exactly the most popular, it's not the most entertaining, and it definitely isn't the best to watch. But with these next-gen cars, it's new. It's something new, and we'll see if anything comes of it. We're hearing from the drivers that it's not that much better. It's hard to push. Some people don't really like working together, but we've got 75 laps to run here, and it is Talladega. Even with the worst package humanly possible, you can probably still get a good finish around here. So it might take 74 laps to get some excitement around here, but hopefully it'll come anyway.
Indeed. And, well, as we watch them in the warm-up here, we do have some points to go over. And again, there is a chase involved in this. Now, the important thing in that is to be amongst the top 12 to advance into the chase. And they also have a win and you're in situation with that too. However, not everybody who has won so far this season is automatically in. But right now, as far as the top 5 in points straight up, Chad Klinger is ahead of Halpern, who has closed in after a bit of a slightly better performance than Chad at Bristol. Ben Lafter drops back just a hair from both of them, but has been doing very consistently. Still not to one of those who have won so far out of our 7 winners rather. We'll see if we get 8 tonight. Ray Massey and Lakatos round out your top 5. However, for the race details, Joey, what are we in store for?
Well, it's one less tire set than usual, but other than that, it's same we've seen for the rest of the season. Fixed setup, no spare car. You're going to get that damage fixed in the pits. But 4 tire sets. At Talladega, tires aren't always the most important, but drivers might want to take advantage of some of those 4 tire sets. And also, it's another Dash for Cash race, so the top 5 from the last race will be eligible for that $50 bonus. The winner, no matter what, is going to get $20. Second place, no matter what, is going to get 10, and third place, no matter what, is going to get 5. And there's a couple more prizes given out. I'll have to look up the sheet because there's about 3 of them. There will be a random payout of $10 each because we are up to 20 drivers in the session. So 3 random drivers will receive $10, and also the driver from tonight on that scores the most points the rest of the season will win a 124th autographed William Byron Vanoy Construction 2017 Xfinity car. Not a mouthful at all.
Exactly. And just about 5 minutes left in this warm-up. You mentioned roughly about 20 cars, so it's not going to be a huge field, but still enough that we could see issues if things get messy out there. Knowing that and knowing the difficulties that the drivers are describing, if you were out there, would you want to go out for qualifying, or do you want to try and line up in the back and just hang out for 74 laps?
You might as well go out for qualifying. I don't think it would really hurt because there's no real way to avoid accidents at Talladega. You might think that qualifying at the back is the way to go, but then if you lose the draft and we don't get a caution, you'll lose your lap. You'll lose multiple laps potentially, and you'll be out of it the whole time. So it's a weird game to play, but usually the best way to go is just hang out in the pack and hope that nothing happens. But the best place in the pack to be is probably up front because it's going to be happening behind you unless you get turned for the lead. But pole position, P1, a lot of P words, that's probably the best place to be.
Well, we'll see who gets that pole pretty soon here. Just need this warm-up session to finish up. The other interesting thing will be, especially since there are slightly fewer cars, if it does give us a lot of green flag running, is those green flag pit stops. Now, at Bristol, obviously, there were concerns involved in that one, and we had long green flag runs there. This is a bit of a different beast, especially, Joey, that pit entry. I almost feel like those who are road course drivers may have a little bit of a leg up here trying to do those pit entries.
Yeah, road course drivers, they've got experience with heavy braking into tight corners, which the pit lane essentially is. It's not a tight corner, but you've got to slow down for that pit speed. And we've seen a lot of problems with the brakes in other races this season, not in entering the pits and speeding, but coming into your pit stall, which tells us these brakes are a little bit finicky, a little bit tough to get a handle on. So hopefully in practice, these drivers have practiced pit entry, especially if they're going to come in with a pack, because if they haven't, we're probably going to see a lot of pit speeding, and that's not a good way to lose your race.
No, certainly not. That penalty will not be fun to deal with. As wow, there's some pushing going on in this little pack. That is Zach Carr and Casey Licatos teaming up and showing just how powerful the push is. They just left that trio in the dust after that. We're on board with Carr now. And yeah, my goodness, he's doing close to 200, whereas behind them, they're only at 196, 197. So if you can get it down, if you put that practice in, from what we're just seeing here in the warm-up, it seems like those who are brave and willing to try and get in there and push are going to find big dividends.
Yeah, we've heard from some of the drivers earlier in the day before the session started that this package at these plate tracks, it's tough to pass, it's tough to make moves, but if you can work together with another car, you can move your way forward, you can get a little bit extra speed, you can move your way through the pack, but it's just going to come down to who's going to be able to work together. Will we see teammates working together? Will we see non-teammates working together, just getting in tandem to help each other for the greater good? Or will we see a little bit more selfishness and maybe running single file for 40-something laps until drivers finally decide to make the moves? But I just realized something I failed to mention in the pre-race details. There are those halfway points. So running in single file for 74 laps isn't really going to be the best way to go, because if you're 17th, you're not going to get any halfway points. So you're going to want to move up at least if you do want a couple points. You might not survive if you try and get aggressive halfway through the race, but there'll be some points for it.
Oh yeah, and if you're on the cusp of those top 12, that'll be important to make your way into the chase, because if you don't have that win, well, you kind of need those. In the meantime, another thing that struck me is we've been talking a lot about the push, and the aero is always a big talking point here at Talladega. Something that the drivers were chatting about before we came live was the side draft here, Joey. And those who haven't experienced super speedway racing in stock cars might go, what in the world is side draft? When we talk about that, explain to our audience exactly what we're getting at there.
Well, especially now with those recent updates on iRacing with the more effective side draft, if you get basically alongside a car, not necessarily completely alongside, but you get to their left rear quarter panel, you get your, let me do my geometry here, your right front quarter panel to their left rear quarter panel, and you don't necessarily touch them, you don't rub them at all, but you get that draft that's coming from the front of the car in front, and it will suck you forward from the side. Side draft, somewhat self-explanatory, but if that is effective in that car, that's going to be a very effective way to get their way to the front. But unfortunately, at these plate tracks, especially at Talladega, in the corners, if you're trying to side draft someone from the outside, it's very easy to go down a little bit too low, just jump down maybe half a lane too much and actually clip the rear quarter panel of the car you're trying to side draft, and that'll just be instantly turning them into the wall at about 200 miles per hour. So you got to be careful with the side draft, even if it is effective.
Yeah, I worry that could be the cause of a big one potentially today. Another one of those fears for drivers whenever they show up at Talladega, and the qualifying session has just started. So drivers will now get out and try to get their speed up and see if they can put a flyer in. And you might be thinking, wait, this is a flat-out track the whole way around. How in the world do they make a difference in qualifying out here? And many oval drivers have told me over the years that there is a huge science to this, Joey, that there's a lot of little tricks, and I've witnessed many of them in my years of calling these now at this point, that some seem sort of counterintuitive, such as the first lap being up on the high side. But so many subtleties that go into trying to make literally thousandths faster over the course of a lap over your rivals.
Yeah, running the high line, like we're seeing Tim Downey Jr. here do, not only on the pace lap, on that full first lap, if you can get 2.66 miles of flat out running on the longest part of the track, because it is longer. You might think that the track is 2.66 miles all around, but no, just by virtue of geometry, the highest line is longer. There's more track for you to gain more speed. So if you're doing that for the first 2 laps, you'll have more speed on the final lap to use up, and then you'll see the drivers bring it down to the shortest possible line down there on the yellow line, and that's when it's really going to be key. You can get as much speed up as you could possibly want on those first 2 laps, those first 2 out laps, but if you're not perfectly smooth on that lap that counts, you're not going to be on pole. It's going to come down to thousandths, to hundredths, and you're going to have to be absolutely perfect with the wheel, perfectly smooth, and also not clip the apron at all, and that's the toughest part.
Oh, look at how close that the 25 has been flirting with that outside wall. Tim Downey Jr. here is going to be, I think, our first one to set a time. And again, this first lap is not the money lap with him riding up on the high side. It is longer time-wise, even though his speed is going to be higher. But now, already, immediately, he cuts down to the bottom. And let's see what Tim Downey Jr. can do on the big one.
There's quite the discrepancy in some of those first laps. Jeremy Miller was quite a bit quicker than the rest of them on that first lap, so I wondered, did he run a little bit lower of a line? We know Jeremy Miller is very effective at these plate tracks. He's got something secret going on there. As Ben Lafter, he's not waiting a second. He must have run the bottom line in his first lap because he's got half a second over the field. He's going to be feeling good right now, but in about 30 seconds time, when everybody else comes to the line, he's probably going to fall a little bit further down.
I just went and checked, and you're right. We saw this, I believe it was at Chicagoland, where it was another one that we kind of saw a similar situation. It's not a super speedway, but drivers tended to kind of run high on the first lap. Downey Jr. down and across the line, a 51.970. And that actually is not quicker than Ben Lafter's first one, but Nolan Hodgson does manage to pip him by just a couple thousandths of a second, but Jeremy Miller is quickly above him.
And Ben Lafter going to get a second lap in here. Does he improve from the 51.969? No, he doesn't. So that is bizarre from Ben Lafter. His first lap was quicker. You don't see that often here, but unfortunately, now he is starting to fall down. Jeremy Miller pipped him. Hodgson, Massey, he is starting to fall down. And Evan Adams here, his first lap about half a second off pace, what we'd expect. Evan is very effective in IndyCar qualifying, which is another kind of place where there's all sorts of tips and tricks that you need to succeed. Unfortunately, That qualifying not so effective for Evan, and I don't even think that lap counted. Yes, it did, but he's still 10th.
So Bryce Calusa now sitting in 12th on his second lap. And I think he might be one of the only ones here with the second lap to go. And he goes to a 52.070. That will not get him up a position. Only 12 cars have set a time. And the remaining ones have been sitting in pit lane. With only 45 seconds left, that means that they are not going to get a lap in. We talked about this earlier. Some considering trying to start at the very back of the pack just to try and stay out of trouble. We'll see if that pays off for them in the end. So I believe that means that our grid is officially set at this point. And that means that Ray Massey has managed to put it on the pole today. Jeremy Miller will start from P2. It is Nolan Hodgson who is third. And Ben Lafter, actually, it was pretty quick with his method. So who knows? I don't know if that's dumb luck or what is going on with the 64. But he managed to get on the outside of the second row. Tim Downey Jr., P5 for him, as Zach Carr will start from 6. Josh Banks, P7 for him. Jeff Wright in 8th. And Ryan Carwile, 9th. Evan Adams rounds out your top 10.
Then in 11th place, it was the last car we saw, Bryce Calusa alongside Caleb Weekly and the rest of the gang who didn't get a lap down in qualifying. They might think they're staying out of trouble, but when 8 of them also didn't qualify, it's kind of an open question. Casey Licata, Zach Halpern, Matthew Close, Clifton Cockrell, Finian DeCuna, Brad Allison, Mike Hurley, and David Mott Jr. round out the 20-car field. And you may have noticed, we named 20 names there. Chad Klinger was not one of them. Your championship leader not on the grid tonight. So, as usual, it's wide open for a new winner.
Interesting. Well, the good news for Chad is that with him leading the points and with a win, he's pretty solidly into the chase at this point, and he has had 7 races. So he does qualify for that. I believe there are 3 drivers with a win that qualify or can qualify because of that. One of them needs to get his other races. That's Carwile. Is Ryan Carwile here tonight? Yes, he is. So Carwile needs one more race after this one to get his 7 in, and he has just enough time with one more race after this before the chase starts. The others, we mentioned Chad Klinger in there. And then Jeremy Miller also qualifies, having put his 7 races in so far this season. So otherwise, anybody else has got to try and fight their way in to that top 12 to make the playoffs here at the end of 2021. The iRacing pace car waiting for everybody to grid up, and then we will be on our way. And it looks like we do have everybody out there, so we should see that little sedan start to take off and lead them around. Thankfully, only one pace lap around a track this big, and then we get to go racing for 75 laps today, Joey.
Yeah, but unfortunately, even with one pace lap, it does take quite a while, so the tension builds as you drive around these 2.6 miles. It takes quite a while, whether it's the pace lap or the caution laps that you sometimes inevitably get at Talladega, but as the tension rises, some drivers might be better at holding back than others. Some drivers might get overexcitable at the start, but this is going to be a critical moment once this race gets started. This is everybody packed together. We're worried that we might see some single file action for the majority of the race as drivers try to stay out of trouble. But to get single file from double file, you've got to merge everybody together, and that's when problems can happen.
Now, the temperatures have gone up slightly since we were practicing. They were in the mid-80s before, and now it's up to 92 degrees Fahrenheit. But as we said, should not affect these cars quite as much here on the super speedways, especially with these downforce packages that they have on them now. But even still, we'll keep an eye on that to see if that changes at any stage at all. Down the long backstretch. Now you see that yellow line at the bottom of the track. They cannot pass other cars while below that line unless they are trying to take avoiding action due to a wreck. So when you see them start to race, you can expect them to hug the bottom all the way to that yellow line on the backstretch to prevent somebody from being able to get below them and take the inside away here through the corners. But obviously, once you're here in the corner, you really don't want to be below that because that is where the banking starts to go away. So up at the front, Ray Massey with Jeremy Miller alongside him, who is going to do well here at one of the more random tracks on the NASCAR circuit. It's not completely random. You do need your skill, and you do need a little bit of luck to try and get a victory. The pace car is in. Massey has control. Does he go early? He doesn't want to get a jump here because this, again, is a little bit different from your typical race start. You want the pack to go with you, and the green flag is now. We go racing here at Talladega, and it's a good start for Massey, bringing others along with him, but it looks like Jeremy Miller is being a little bit hung out to dry at the start.
Yeah, Miller on that high line. He's going to fall back quite a bit here. He might find a hole behind Nolan Hodgson in that tied car, but no, it closes up. The Tim Downey Jr. late July car gets down there and not able to merge down into the bottom are Jeremy Miller and Ben Lafter and Zach Carr and Jeff Wright. Seems like nobody's moved around at all. It's still 2x2.
Looks like the 64 is getting up to push the 30 now, trying to get him into the lead. He's got a nose ahead. I heard one driver actually get on the radio and said, I forgot fifth gear. One of those weird differences that this car has compared to the package NASCAR had for pretty much since its existence. And coming down to the bottom side, looks like Miller and Lafter are going to move themselves to the inside row.
Jeremy Miller calls himself the plate god. He wins quite a few of these things in the ORL. I think he's won all but 2 that he's run in ORL history, so no surprise to see him up front, but it is early days, still 73 laps to go. But if he is as effective on these tracks as he's shown that he has been in the past, I don't think we'll be seeing Jeremy Miller falling much further back than this.
Ooh, jumping up at the high line. That's a 25 of Downey Jr. Jeff Wright goes with him. Unfortunately, doesn't do much but check up everybody behind them. Yeah, you talked about, as we almost had to think about 3 wide there with the 48, but thankfully that did not happen. You think about how even in real life you had the Earnhardts who were known for being so good at these plate tracks, and there's kind of the mythos about Senior that's saying, oh, he can see the air. What does make a difference? What makes a driver good at super speedways?
Well, first of all, qualifying always helps, and moving your way to the front like Jeremy Miller did early on. He qualified second, but he was able to get to first instantly, and being in the lead, especially at a place like this where you're single file most of the time, that's the best place to be. But the thing about these plate tracks is some people think that they are just wreck fests and it's dumb luck who wins, and sometimes that is the case if everybody crashes. But there are drivers who are extremely effective at this style of racing. They're not afraid to go for moves. They know when the runs are coming. They know when they can actually make a move to get to the front. And clearly Jeremy Miller is one of them. And Ben Lafter in second as well. We talk every week about how he's so effective in about 14 different disciplines. He did the Suzuka 10 hours today, I believe, and he did the Camel GT race. So he might be all raced out at this point, but he's still here.
And he got another podium in Camel today at Summit Point, of all places. If you haven't seen a Camel race at Summit Point, I highly recommend going and watching that one. But yeah, he actually took a third place, broke his string of seconds, though. But I believe, from what I've heard, he is now our points leader over there. But that is neither here nor there. Right now, we've got a plate race here at Talladega. And Miller leads, Lafter leads, Massey, your top 3. And everybody is actually looking pretty chill right now here as we start lap 5, because it's just about single file the whole way down.
Yeah, this is kind of what we expected early on. There's no real reason to be 2x2x2 or 3 wide all the way through the pack this early on, getting your way to the front, because it is such a long race. It's not a B fixed sprint or an A fixed sprint race, which is 20 laps. There's 75 of this thing, and there's going to be a pit stop with it. So getting your way to the front right now is great, but it's not that important. You do have plenty of time. And unfortunately, I'm seeing 4 drivers who've lost the back of the train, and I believe they're the last 4 drivers who qualified. Now, Finian DeCuna was with them, but he's up in the pack. But these 4, David Mott Jr., Brad Allison, Clifton Cockrell, and Mike Hurley, unfortunately for them, they've lost the draft, and they're going to have to be careful, because with everybody running single file up ahead of them, a caution doesn't seem likely right now. So they're going to have to be careful not to lose their lap.
Yeah, they really need to try and work together, I think, through here. As there you see those back four. And I think we're trying to see the distance between themselves and the rest. And yeah, it is already quite a bit. 3.3 seconds when you're rolling at 192 miles an hour is a pretty long ways. There is another angle just kind of show you how far apart they are. We talked a little bit about the weather briefly ago. That was mostly about the track surface. Now, the air temperatures as well, kind of a bit of a concern, at least when you get racing this close here, Joey. At what stage do they need to start poking their noses out to cool the engines? Can you run in a line like this for pretty long as you just get a little huff of air?
Well, honestly, with the way they're running right now, it's never too early or never too late to go out and get a little bit of air on your nose, because nobody's really fighting for anything. You can see a little bit of swerving, a little bit of movement all through this train, but nobody's going all the way out because they don't want to open that hole in the bottom, but they don't really need to. If you just get like half a car out, get half of the car exposed to the fresh, colder air, that'll be fine for you. If you look at the back of Jeremy Miller's car, you see Ben Laughter. Is he going to poke his nose out to the high side here just a little bit? No, this time he's just going to hang right on the bottom of the apron. So clearly Laughter isn't concerned about heat and temperatures rising in the engine, but we're only about 7 laps in. So I'd say maybe lap 20, 30, that's when you're going to have to start worrying. But as of right now, it seems like everybody's okay.
Still a lot of racing left to go. And if you're wondering about those halfway points, look for lap 37 out there. And now they're starting to get closer together and pushing up at the front. Laughter actually got to the bumper of Miller, gave him a tiny little help down the straightaway. And the 23 behind them, Ray Massey, got very close to doing it as well. There you can see just how close he's willing to run. And in the corners, too. In the past, that's always been a bit of a no-no trying to push through there. But it seems like both he and Miller feel relatively safe doing so.
Yeah, we're going so slow. When I say slow, as they cross the line at 195 miles per hour, but we're not over 200, and the fronts of these cars are very flat, and they're all exactly the same. So pushing in the corners is possible. You don't want to do it wrong, because if you push someone on a corner of their car in a corner, you're going to turn them and kill everybody. But you can push as long as you are back to back or front to back, pushing straight on. You can do it in the corners, but you got to be careful, because you get that angle wrong and you're going to be killing somebody.
Not quite a push down the backstretch this time out of the 64. It certainly gets close to him. That's still going to help out Miller somewhat. This is a very polite front group, and that time I did see a big poke to the inside from the 95 of Hodgson and the Tide machine. Now, that is a case where they are allowed to go down low, because he did not take positions, even though he went underneath the yellow line. If he's just looking to get air, he is certainly allowed to do that. Well, so here's the question then. Especially and I think this might answer the question I was about to ask, Joey. If you're at the back, when do you make this decision to go to try and get up, to try and get some of those halfway points here? And it looks like Evan Adams, Zach Carr, Jeff Wright, and Matthew Close are forming a train up on the high side. 4 cars together, but that's up against the likes of 10 cars together up at the front.
But luckily, none of them are pushing each other. Zach Carr is pushing Evan Adams. He got awfully close. Oh, that's not what you like to see, him swerving up and down while he's pushing Evan. Luckily, he didn't turn him with a bad push there. But as they are linked together, Jeff Wright's going to join him. Is he going to push the pusher here? No, he isn't. He's going to back off. And they are going to jump Carwile. Oh, this is getting dicey. Zach Carr is a good pusher, but he might be pushing a little bit too hard. I think Evan was probably extremely scared there as he got loose down the back straight.
Well, all's well that ends well. They're all still running, and this has been a valiant effort. But they were able to get ahead of Carwile briefly, and now they've fallen back. It is a longer line, but the outside here, that slingshot effect, so they call it running up the hill there. The momentum seems to certainly help them sometimes. Oh, and they might get some more friends. Oh, we got our first wreck. A big one. Was that Hodgson? That was Hodgson, who suddenly finds himself in a heap in the grass.
Josh Banks just completely turned Nolan Hodgson. I think he thought he was clear, and he absolutely was not. And unfortunately, Nolan Hodgson hits the outside wall head on at about 200 miles per hour. And that was just clumsy from Josh Banks.
If we want an onboard from the 71 of Ryan Carwile, he went underneath the 95 there. So he's got to feel a little bit lucky that he is able to shoot the gap. But Nolan Hodgson is basically done for here today. They don't have a spare car to help them.
I think he's going to be more than basically done for. That engine's probably exploded. But look at Josh Banks. He tries to get to the bottom. And no, he was not clear whatsoever there. There was still a corner of the 95. And unfortunately, I think he realized his mistake the second he made it. And Hodgson, just absolutely nothing he could have done there. And if we can get an onboard, I think Hodgson flew over about half the field. I don't know. Did he land on somebody? Did somebody hit him?
I believe there may have been a little bit of contact. I'm trying to find who it may have been. But like I said, I do know the 71 went literally underneath him. So here's the replay of the incident. You can see the turn.
Yeah, Evan Adams. And
that's, yeah. Yep, Adams got a little piece of him, I think.
And he went over Carwile as well. You can see in the rearview mirror here, there's no car you're seeing now. And suddenly, no, I think it was before that, but here we go. You see it from the outside. Watch Ryan Carwile on the bottom in that dark maroon car, about 8 cars back. And see Banks come down here. Hodgson goes flying. And then watch Carwile and Adams here. Oh, my God.
And, whoa, okay, well, we're 13 laps in, and everybody is down pit lane, except for Ben Lafter. Okay.
I mean, I don't know why Ben Lafter wouldn't come in if everybody else was, but honestly, and unfortunately for him, he was second, so he might have thought that about 10 other cars were going to follow him out there, but no, every other driver followed Jeremy Miller, and Ben was just stuck out there, and I think now he's made his bed. He can't come back in because he's going to be 19th, so he's just going to have to hope that whatever strategy all these guys are trying to pull. Did they take tires? It looked like most of them took 4 tires.
Miller did not. Miller took no tires. It was a splash and dash, and he's back out on track. Looks like Carwile also did the same. He's 6.4 seconds. Evan Adams, I see Zach Carr only in for 9.4. Brad Allison for 7.5. Those could have been 2 tire stops, however. Otherwise, everybody else who came in looks to have gotten a full service pit stop.
And luckily for Carwile and Adams, who both almost had a car land on them, luckily looks like they didn't take any damage from it because they both came in for just fuel and they had those short pit stops, didn't have to wait for any damage to get fixed. And look at them jumping up to 3rd and 4th for the moment. If we can look at the front of that car, I don't think there's a single scratch on there. I think he got very lucky. Yeah, Evan Adams, he's looking pristine.
We missed a problem. Michael Hurley caught the back of the field when the pace car picked them up, and he lost control. He's been taking repairs in his pit stall. There you see him now. And while he will come out on the lead lap, this is horrible news because look at the right-hand side of the car. There is no way that is going to be aerodynamically fast.
Yeah, if we can see a replay of that, I was watching it. I saw the end of it, and it's just bizarre. I wonder. I think he downshifted as he was approaching the pack, and then he just lost control. That's a bizarre accident from Mike. I can't explain how that happened. Yeah, I think he just downshifted and lost control of the banking because I've never seen anything like that. But leave it to Mike to show us some things that we've never seen before.
Well, I think as we get one more look at it.
He was fine. He had it completely slowed down, and then he got back on the throttle. I think he downshifted and got back on the throttle and lost it. That's bizarre. That is bizarre.
Got to be an embarrassing one, no doubt. And I think lights are off. Let me double check. Yes, lights just went off on the pace car, which means we're going to get going next time by. So, Lafter out on the point. That's no guarantee that he will stay there. But we were saying earlier, new tires don't mean a whole lot. Maybe he'd rather have the track position. And at this point, though, he is playing a little bit of a gamble. He's essentially banking on another caution happening within what? About, let's see, we're going to restart lap 16. Probably within the next, I'd say 15 laps.
I think so. So it's going to be a very interesting restart. There's somebody down in the apron. Is that Nolan? No, that is the 03 of Brad Allison, who just came down pit road again. I don't know why he did that, but he's going to join the back of the field in that gold and green car. I'm looking at his pit stop. Did he just... I think he came down for a second time to just get tires. I think he might have not taken tires the first time around, but then he would have been higher up. So I don't know what's going on with Brad Allison.
We'll look into that. In the meantime, I can also tell you that we did have a penalty given to Josh Banks. He was given an end of line for his involvement with that incident. So he's back down to 16th now. And we start to get double file here. Ben Laughter, one of those still looking for a first win, wants to become 8 out of 8. Let's see. I don't think Evan Adams has taken a win so far this season. No, he has not. He's the next one down who could potentially be a first-time winner here this season. I think, has Ray Massey taken one? No, he is not. So Ray Massey, who is going to be restarting from 5th, could be another potential first-time winner. Here we go. The pace car going to leave them be, but with the start-finish line being after the tri-oval, they're going to have to wait a little bit patiently here. Laughter will get to decide when they go now that the pace car is in. He doesn't want to jump. If he gets too far ahead of the field, they will start to reel him in. They'll have momentum and easily pass him. Green flag is out, and he's actually a little slow on the throttle. That checks up his lane. Thankfully, doesn't cause too much of an issue. But just like last time, Miller starts to pull out on his group.
Miller and Laughter were buddies on this first run, so we'll see if Laughter can maybe let him down there. But no, doesn't happen. Laughter couldn't get a hole for Miller to move down, and Carwile and Massey and the whole gang are going to move their way forward into the top 3 here. But Jeremy Miller was able to get a run on the high side and take the lead about 2 laps into the run originally, but now he's got Evan Adams helping him. We'll see if Evan is as effective as a pusher, and clearly Miller doesn't think so, because Miller just dives right down to the bottom, and Adams and Carr and Kalusa and Downey and everybody, they're going all the way to the back of the train.
Yeah, we had 3 wide down the back stretch, and it is not working out mostly for Evan Adams, who finds himself, like you said, literally falling to the very back here. He's already in 15th. Now he finds a spot on the bottom line, regretting that decision, no doubt. But from first down to, looks like about 9th place, they are single file.
It's just looking like the same thing we saw in that first run, but maybe about 10 laps in, just like we saw last time. That'll be when drivers start to move their way forward, or at least start to try to move their way forward. Caleb Weekly's doing the opposite of that. He's moving all the way to the back here. And there's the 32 of Michael Hurley, caboose on the field. I think he's just keeping with the draft, even with that damage. So that's good for him that he's not completely out of it, but that car's not going to be very fast, and I think he's going to be hanging out back there for most of the rest of the day as we go 3 wide for about 90th with Cockrell and Mott and Allison, and it looks like they're going to figure everything out, but Matthew Close is going to make it 3 wide again. Be careful, gentlemen. You're fighting for about 16th, and they figure it out.
But they're starting to lose touch. Looks like the train ends at Evan Adams with Allison barely clinging to it. Then you've got Close and his co back there that we've been watching, with the 4 trying to find his spot in line. Just gets in there in time. Now that they've settled out, we do have an unfortunate early friend here ready to talk to us, and that is Nolan Hodgson. Nolan, sad to see you leave the race this early. It's almost a bit of irony, because I could hear you and some of the drivers talking about how it was getting to be a calm, boring race with everybody single file. You kind of ruined those words now?
Yeah, there definitely was a lot of action right then, right after I said that. I felt good about this race too. I qualified, top three. It felt good to be able to start up front, be able to be in that lead pack there. It's just unfortunate that I had to get out this early.
It really is. Before that, though, how is the racing feeling in this new package? Are you enjoying it? So do you feel like it works pretty well at these super speedways, or are there tweaks you'd like to see out of it?
Honestly, I would know nothing about how to fix aerodynamics and whatnot for these cars. It disappoints me to see single file racing at pretty much at every super speedway race. It's saddening to see.
I can kind of understand that as we now hop on board here. One of our drivers on the bottom line up towards the front. This is obviously been a bit of a mixed race between that sudden action and then, as you mentioned, a lot of the single file racing. But we see here back in the back of the pack, a lot of guys are trying to get something running. What have you felt like works best for them? What do you think needs to be done between these drivers trying to get a top line going?
So in my experience of trying to get the top line going, you need pretty much more than half the field to come with you with this package to be able to make a strong outside line. I do remember at Daytona there was, if you had 3 or more cars, you can make a good outside line, but here at Talladega, you pretty much need half the field.
We start to get a double file up at the front now as the 71 gets pushed off to the side and the 30 goes behind the 64. One last thing before we let you go, Nolan. You came in 10th in the points. You're kind of on the cusp as we get close to the chase now. Are you worried about falling out of those top 12?
I mean, at this point, I am. I try to run as many laps as I can. It just seems like bad luck tends to find me. Obviously Bristol was myself getting loose all the time, but I just need to find a way to run as many laps as possible, get as many good finishes as possible in order to try to make this chase.
All right, well, best of luck to you and commiserations as on screen that we see the 64 really get hung out to dry and the entire field is going up and around Ben Lafter. That was Nolan Hodgson we were talking to from the 95 car who has already DNF'd in this race. Well then, how far down did Ben Lafter go? Looks like he's found a spot in line about 7th, but that is from the lead. Still, he's in a tough spot because we're now on lap 23, maybe about 10 more laps before he's probably going to need to come in for fuel. And if we're still running green, he is going to lose a lot of time.
But he's about in the middle of the pack here, so he might be able to save a little bit more fuel than some of the others who will have to stop, I think, but quite a bit later. So he might be able to even things out, but even then, if he does pit on his own, he's going to have no help from the other 15 cars in this pack, so he's going to get completely swallowed up. So he's going to hope for a yellow in maybe the next 10, 15 laps, like you said. But as for right now, he is just hanging out in the middle of this pack. It is one by one, all the way back to 14th, unfortunately. And it looks like Evan Adams has just lost the draft, so it's going to become 13.
You mentioned needing some help, and you also told us about how the tandem seems to be the way to go. How important do you feel like it is to have a teammate in this series? Do you feel like it will pay dividends, that if you have someone that you race with frequently and share setups, that you could potentially try and make some sort of pact out here?
Definitely, and it does help. There's quite a few 3-4 car teams in this field, so we'll probably see them join up with each other later in the race. Of course, the Sim Motorsports cars, we've got 3 of them in the field tonight, so we'll see if they can join up. They're separated just a little bit. Casey Lakatos is 4th, Finian is 8th, and Josh Banks is 9th after that EOL penalty, so they've brought it back together. And quite a few other teams, Downey Enterprises, they're a bit separated, but if they can all find each other, if they can make up their own 4-car tandems or whatever the 4 equivalent of a tandem is, they should be pretty effective in moving their way up to the front.
Yeah, right now that front is still Jeremy Miller, who just had a blink. Well, let's hope that that doesn't happen anymore. And the 26 gets off of him. And based on what we can see, it does appear that Miller and Carr are on the same team, which I'm getting confirmation here. So that's another one. And they've only got one car splitting them right now. So once Zach can maybe get around Zach, and he could potentially try and give a little bit of a push to the 30, see if they can get themselves something over some of the fields. 25 laps in, now 26 laps in, rather, on this race. We've only lost one car, Nolan Hodgson. 19 are still rolling.
And it's almost stratified out to be 3 packs now, because 3 cars, Mott, Weekly, and Close, are on their own. And then back to the back of the back is Adams, Hurley, and Cockrell. 2 out of 3 of them are teammates, the AAIR teammates of Adams and Hurley, trying to work together. I wonder if Evan's trying to give Mike a little bit of help with his damaged car and pull him forward a little bit, but they are so far back right now. It's 6 seconds back to Mott, 7 seconds now, and then 8.3 seconds back to Adams and Hurley. So while it is a long lap, it's about a 50-second lap. If they're losing 1 or 2 seconds per lap and we go green the whole rest of the way, they're very much in danger of going a lap down here.
Absolutely. And that's a big if, though. We've already seen one caution, but they have seemed to have calmed down. Happened, what, about lap 11 or 12 last time? So they're within the range at this point. If that becomes a similar occurrence, that we could see another one erupt around here. And you can see a little bit of wiggling there down the back stretch as the drivers trying to hook up properly at the back of the field. But at the front, it's still single file with nobody really pushing all that much, just kind of cruising.
Basically, everybody is just cruising right now, and I don't think they have really anything else to do, but there's 6 laps left until... No, there isn't. I can't do math. There's 8 laps left, 9 laps left, 10 laps left, something like that until halfway comes. So if it takes that long to build up momentum, if it takes that long to build up a run, some drivers are going to have to start popping out and maybe working together to move their way forward, because if not, it's going to be Jeremy Miller getting those 10 points guaranteed.
Yeah, I believe it is 10 laps to go before we get those halfway points. Last one that's going to score them right now is Ray Massey. So who's going to try and get that run and get just a little point or two coming to the line in a few minutes. So we now start lap 29 of this race. Oh, a little bit of a look there from 4th place driver Lakatos, maybe. No, he's going to stay down low. Lakatos, one of those that is up for the dash for cash here today. But Miller, with his reputation here on the super speedways, have to think is probably the favorite today to try and come away with a little bit of cash in his pocket.
Well, it's quite a while until the finish of the race, but I'd like to bring up Chicagoland, because remember, that was a similar package where it seemed like everybody was running single file because they couldn't make a move until the very end, and then drivers got desperate. They attempted to make a move to win the race, and it ended up wrecking the entire top 4, and somebody won the race crossing the line sideways. So I do worry that might be the way this race ends in 55 laps to 45 laps time. And if Jeremy Miller's up there this whole time, it's going to be frustrating for some of the drivers behind him, and they're going to take the first opportunity they can get to get by him. Hopefully it just isn't on the final lap. Hopefully we don't have to wait that long.
Well, here's crossing fingers. Now into lap 30 of this race. And did I just hear Ben Lafter say that he's got a pit?
That'll be terrible for Ben Lafter. He's going to hope that a caution comes out here, but it's been 30 laps. So that might tell us how long these tanks are going to last, because here he comes. He's been in the draft the whole time. He hasn't even been leading. Oh, is he going to make it? No.
Nope. I think that's a speeding penalty. Yeah, absolutely a speeding penalty. He was many miles an hour over that limit. Now that he is down on the lane, this is going to hurt doubly hard for the 64. That might be race over unless we get a caution. He gets that lucky dog.
Well, the caution lasted, what, 2-3 laps? So that tells us that these tanks are only going to last 28 laps or so. So all these drivers are going to have to come in very soon, maybe in about 10 laps time, and then they might have to come in again. So it might be 2 stops to the end. If Laughter gets a caution here, he'll be back in it, but unfortunately that speeding penalty is going to kill him. But it's going to be very interesting up front if they do have to make 2 more green flag stops. Is everybody going to fall apart? Who's going to still be around at the front? I don't know, but they're going to have to come in about 10 laps time if Ben Laughter is on the same fuel strategy.
Interesting stuff here. And that means we are at least, let's see, that will make it at minimum a 2-stop race here. So it's still Miller up at the front. Halpern is in second. Zach Carr is in third. Laughter's rolling. And looks like he will at least stay 1 lap down, which means once the leaders come in to stop, if we don't get a caution before then, he can get back onto the lead lap, but he will not be with a train. Right now, what he needs is to find somebody out on that track and just hook up with them and try their darndest to leapfrog one another.
Well, unfortunately, the closest car to Ben Laughter right now is the car on your screen right now. It's the leader. It's the number 30. So Laughter is going to be very, very lonely back here, and there's nothing more boring than trying to drive at Talladega on your own, just hoping for a caution. So Ben is not going to be a very happy camper, and he's not going to be a very excited camper for the next couple laps, but he's going to be hoping and praying and crossing everything that the caution does come out, and that will save him. But he's got to start getting worried here because the 30's going through turn 4 right now. Ben Laughter's just crossing the line right now. So that's not a lot of seconds, and that's not a lot of time.
Yeah, and there's a 10-mile-an-hour difference between the two of them currently. So he's going to get gobbled up, no doubt, as they come through the tri-oval once again. Now, let's see if we're theorizing about 28 laps. So what's the backwards math here to get to lap 75? At what point can they pit the earliest to be able to get to the finish?
Well, if they have 7 or 8 laps here, they're going to pit on lap 41 or 42, which will give them 33 laps left. They'd have to pick up 6 extra laps of fuel. So I think it's going to be a 2-stop guaranteed. Well, but when do people come in?
But doesn't that mean then they'll have to make an extra pit stop compared to Ben Laughter? So Laughter might not actually be out of this, even with that penalty, because if they can't make that extra fuel and have to make 2 stops, I think, let's see, or am I imagining things here? Now I'm confusing myself.
No, I think you're right, because Laughter just pitted. He's going to go 28 more laps. That's going to get him to lap 60 something. I don't know. I'm not going to count that, but he will only have 1 more stop to go. But unfortunately, any chance of this strategy working for him was completely destroyed by the fact that he got a speeding penalty and an unsafe entry penalty. So those 54 seconds in the pits, that's what's going to kill him, I think.
Yeah, that really is, I think, the fly in the ointment, unfortunately, as we go too wide here. Behind first and second place, that's Carr on the bottom. Lakatos leads the train on the high side. He's got Jeff Wright pushing behind him, and quite literally pushing, as he's managed to get himself up to the bumper, while the 25 of Tim Downey Jr. behind Carr doesn't seem quite as interested. Now he starts to finally plug up that hole, and we got 2 trains of 4 there, which might become a train of 6 as the bottom lane catches the 26 of Halpern.
And they're doing this because the time after the next time they cross the line, that's when halfway points are going to be given out. So this might be a foreshadowing of the finish here. Drivers might have to move out of the line with 2 laps to go. Unfortunately, what everyone was trying to do there, it's completely failed because they were together for about a millisecond, and now Jeff Wright and Casey Lakatos are going straight back down into the bottom line. It didn't work at all.
Yeah, Fedian Takuna now moves into the final points paying spots. Here we go, 1 to go now to the points positions. And someone ducking up high. Is that Lakatos I see? Yes, it is. Nobody goes with him. Now he starts to get Jeff Wright trying to see if they can make something happen. Does Allison potentially try to join in? Doesn't look like he's interested. Not making any moves.
And Jeff Wright isn't even pushing Casey Lakatos. Absolutely nothing is happening here. Lakatos tries to side draft Ryan Carwile just a little bit to maybe beat Carwile to the line, but they've got absolutely nothing for those top 5 who are actually streaking away. Lakatos gets down to the bottom line. Calusa's still stuck on top. Wright's still stuck on top, but that's it.
And it will be Takuna, the last one to get a point here as they cross the line. Oh, maybe not. I think actually he beat Jeff Wright to 9th place. No, it was thousandths of a second between them at the line. Wright was scored in 9th, Takuna in P10 that time through. But Miller took the most of the points up at the top of that one. No surprises there.
That does not bode well for the finish of this race. So hopefully these drivers are going to learn from that and realize that if you're just 2 cars on the high line, you're not going anywhere forward. So it's going to have to be quite a few more cars than that working together if you do want to make a big move to win this race. Maybe Zach Halpern and Zach Carr, the lead cars, they're gonna have to be the ones to lead the effort to get by Miller at the end here, but they showed no interest in jumping him for the halfway points. I guess the difference between 10 and 9 points isn't all that much, but in 37 laps time when they actually have to win this race, hopefully they've learned from this and hopefully they've learned to work together.
Well, they are on lap 26 of their fuel stint now. And guys like Miller, who have been up at the front for much of the time, has to have been sucking up a whole lot more fuel there. So I wonder if the 30 will be able to pit with anybody. I would think Zach Carr, the most likely one to try and sync up with him. So should be going by this time at least, not anticipating them trying to pit this lap. And yes, they will all continue on through.
If we could ride on board with Jeremy Miller here, I'd like to point out something in front of him. You can see it, there it is, that little ant in the distance. That's Ben Lafter, who is very much in danger of now going 2 laps down. So if he wants to stay only 1 lap down, he's gonna have to hope that in the next like half a mile, the rest of this field gets into each other and brings out a caution, because if not, he's gonna be 2 laps down here. He'll be the only car 2 laps down, so we'll still get the lucky dog ahead of Hodgson, but this is terrible, and it's making a bad race even worse for Ben Lafter.
Exactly. Yeah. That big thing, I think, is the fact that the lucky dog could at least get him back into this race if he can get a caution. And he's moving to the high side now. He sees him coming. They do not pit. He needs them to essentially pit ASAP, because that could at least get him within range of the lucky dog, keep him a lap down, or put him potentially back on the lead lap here. But no, it's not meant to be. And Ben Lafter's speeding penalty, along with his unsafe pit entry, has cost him dearly.
And you saw through the tri-oval, Jeremy Miller tried to get a little bit of a draft from Ben Lafter to maybe save a milliliter of fuel there. It didn't really do anything for him, but if Ben Lafter found a way to get to the front of this pack, that would have made Jeremy Miller very happy. And it looks like he is going to get in line in front of a few cars. Jeff Wright happy to stick behind him. Banks, Takuna, and Calusa gets by him. Lafter is going to get out of the way of all of them, but Jeff Wright kind of looked like he wanted a buddy in front of him, and he didn't get it.
Well, yeah, Wright unfortunately had to slow up so much. It seemed like he just couldn't really do much to try and push him up there. But now Wright found that buddy in the form of the 20 of Bryce Calusa, and they were very quick out of the tri-oval, but they've lost some of that speed now through 1 and 2. Lap 29 now. Who pits in this time?
I wonder if maybe Lafter came in a little bit early and he's kind of throwing us off because he knew he could make it on a 1 stop to the end with 30-something laps to go. But I don't know. Will they come in this time? If they do, it'll prove Ben Lafter's pit strategy, or his fuel strategy correct, his fuel usage. But no, nobody's coming in. It's going to be 30 laps on this tank of fuel. Mike Hurley brings it in. I think his car might have finally exploded. And these 3 back here, these Oh, Caleb Weegley's coming in. So these drivers who haven't had the draft or have had minuscule amounts of draft with only a 3-car back, they're coming in.
Oh,
so that tells me, Mott. But that tells me that the leaders are going to be coming in here soon.
Yeah, Mott definitely unsafe entry there as he was over the speed limit. And Caleb Weekley is marginal. He was at, I think, somewhere around 55 miles an hour as he crossed the timing line. Watch and see if he winds up getting a penalty, as I'm hearing more drivers say that they're pitting in this time. Halpern goes. Looks like, everybody tries to go and we get a caution maybe? There it is, just as Ben Laughter, I think, moved ahead of everybody, and I think he is going to get the lucky dog and get back on the lead lap. But who started this? I think the 20 was a little bit involved.
There were about 4 different drivers who kind of pushed and shoved each other in that. I can't really put fault on anybody there, unfortunately. Everybody just kind of met in the middle. Massey hit Downey, Wright hit Calusa, and a bunch of others just piled in.
Watch the 48 here. He's going to give a bad push to the 20 as everybody's trying to pit, and that's what starts it.
And Massey as well, right in front of that. So it was 2 separate accidents. As everybody tries to bring it down, you can see Massey hits the back of Downey, and then Calusa comes back onto Massey, who hits Downey again. Wright and Dacuna and Josh Banks nowhere to go. That's 6 or 7 cars with heavy damage, and that's the danger with green flag pit stops at Talladega. The differences in braking, the differences in braking distances, and that's what happens when everybody kind of meets in the middle.
Oof, yeah. Well, and they were all different lanes there coming in, which was never going to work. So it just became quite a mess. So where is our 64 car? Has he already gotten that wave round? He's currently still a lap down, I'm seeing.
I don't think Laughter's going to get the lucky dog because he didn't pass Hurley or Mott or Cockrell or Adams or a whole bunch who were a lap down. Here's a couple drivers. This is every single Sim Motorsports driver who took a bite out of that accident. They're all going to come in the second time around and move to the back. Massey as well, Laughter as well. So that tells you that Laughter didn't get the lucky dog. Oh. And I believe the lucky dog, who's it going to be? I don't know, because Mott, Hurley, Cockrell, Adams, they're all going to get a wave around here. Jeff Wright's in the pits. Ben Laughter's in the pits. I don't think anybody's getting the lucky dog.
Oh, wait, somebody is... Oh, I thought Mott was getting it, and then he just maybe caught up to this group a little too quickly.
That's Mott being a little bit impatient. He's going to get the wave around here, I think, because he's... No. Different rules, different series rules. I was thinking IndyCar rules that they get waved around here, but no, only Evan Adams, I believe... No, all 5 of them will get waved around.
Yeah, if they're ahead of the lead car, if they're between the lead car and the pace car, they'll get waved around.
But unfortunately, it'll only be with 1 to go, so they're not going to be able to make their way up to the back of the pack. They're going to be on their own.
It's going to be very tight. They might be able to get there in time. So Halpern is our current lead car on the lead lap. So Mott Jr., Cockrell, and Adams will get it. Are we getting... Oh, I thought the 64 was indeed getting the lucky dog. He suddenly came up very quickly, and now he's starting to back it off. Trying to sort this out up here as much as I think they're trying to sort it out down there currently. And this will certainly help the fuel mileage of those that are trying to stretch this to the end. So if you were in some of those cars that are in that position where they stopped under our very first caution, Joey, do you maybe try and slow it down a little bit, use somebody to use less fuel, sit behind them, or is that just way too much to try and make and you'd lose your lap by that point?
Well, we're going to go green here with 29 to go, which is the distance of the stint of the cars that just pitted. So they should theoretically be fine. I think the leader might be in danger because they won't have any draft to help him out. But then again, Jeremy Miller led every single lap there, and he had no problems with fuel. So I think it should be safe to the end. But if we get a green-white checker, it might be a different story.
All right, we're coming up the line. I think we're going to get the lights out this time by. So watching for that. And if that happens, they, yep, they're getting waved by now. So there goes our 3. And I thought Caleb Weekey, no, he's on the lead lap. I'm not seeing a lucky dog go past them at this point. So I think you're right that we did not get a lucky dog, but we did get 3 more cars back on the lead lap. Lakatos is coming in a bit late. I see him back there. I'm not sure if he's trying to get some damage repaired. I think he was a bit involved in that incident. That's actually a good question. Who do we have left that has a clean car? Because that could make a big difference here in this last run to the finish.
I think our leaders all have a clean car, luckily. Halpern, I'm looking at the front of his car, he's fine. Caleb Weekly's fine. Dacuna is not fine. I mean, his car looks fine, but we know he got some damage from that accident. Massey has front-end damage. Banks has front-end damage. And then back to Jeremy Miller, who's fallen to 6th. He looks like he's okay. So it seems like it's about 50-50 here of who's got damage and who doesn't.
And they might be extending the caution we're hearing. Lakatos being in pit lane seems to have thrown some of the drivers trying to get their lap back out of whack. And they're coming through 3 and 4 right now. Sounds like they are not extending it from what I can tell over the chatter between the stewards and the drivers. And you can see some drivers trying to get out of line so that those who are supposed to be up there. And here we go. As the pace car is peeling in, it's going to be Zach Halpern, who starts up at the front. Hasn't won yet in that 26 car this season. Is he our next big winner? As he waits for the green to wave. And yeah, this is looking a little bit messy on this restart. Green flag is out. I guess in the end, they're all going to try and get single file anyway, so it's a bit of a moot point. And as they start to accelerate away, 29 laps to go. Is everybody going to be okay on fuel, or will they have to try and do a little bit of saving?
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of black flags getting cleared here because that was a mess of a start. There were only about 2 lanes actually formed up. Unfortunately, that was because so many drivers were put a lap down for a moment when that accident happened and they pitted, but they got their laps back, so they got an end of line penalty, and I don't know what went on there, but for the most part, everybody's single file. David Mott Jr., what a run from him to get to the high side here. This is the fight for about 9th. Casey Lakatos has lost everybody up front, and we're 3 wide for 9th here.
Yeah, that's Mott to the outside, Cockrell in the middle, and then Lakatos on the bottom. Cockrell wants to get down, but he's not clear yet, giving a big push potentially. Here comes Evan Adams, but he's not able to go anywhere with it. Just behind him, Matthew Close starting to form a bit of a train with the 4 at the points, or will it be? The 28 of Cockrell moves up high, but his friends don't go with him.
And while these guys are fighting, the top 7 are pulling away. There's only 7 cars in the lead pack now from Halpern to Carwile. And they're just running single file right now. 8 cars, actually, because Ben Lafter's up there. He is a lap down. He's not fighting with any of them, but this is good for him. If he can maybe move his way to the front of this train, that'll make Zach Halpern very happy because Lafter won't be winning the race if he leads this line to the line, but he will be helping Halpern save a little bit of fuel.
Exactly. A lot of variables to keep track of out there, depending on who you are rooting for. Now, interestingly, Jeremy Miller mired down in 6th position. Is he doing this intentionally? Does he want to try and sit back and sip on that fuel, or is he back there not through his own fault? Behind him, that is Josh Banks, just kind of giving watch. He's recovered, obviously, from his end-of-line penalty, is now in the hunt again. But some passes are going to have to be made if they want to try and get a position. And look at this. Here comes the freight train, the 4. Oh, my goodness. And the 30 tries to join him. but it's not going to work. He's going to get stuck in the middle as those three are suddenly plowing by everybody on the bottom.
Where did they come from? That is incredible. They made up like 2.5 seconds in a single lap. Evan Adams and David Mott Jr., the push of the century to bring them and Matthew close up here. And I tell you what, David Mott Jr. is going to be going for the lead down here in the back straight. If Evan Adams can stick with him, that is one of the best runs I've ever seen. And that's what can happen when you're working together. When you get three cars working together like that. Unfortunately, Mott leaves Evan behind. No, he doesn't. Evan gets down there. That is incredible teamwork from them, too.
I have to say, throw out all the notes that you took in the first part of this race, because wasn't Mott one of those that started to lose the front group at the start of this race? And for him and Adams to just get up to the front like it was nothing, I wonder if they were playing a little bit of possum early on.
Yeah, Mott lost the draft early on, so that's why he was so far back, because he qualified. Well, he didn't qualify. That's why he was dead last, 20th in the field, and he lost the draft being back there. But luckily, by virtue of the cautions, he managed to get it back, and with Evan Adams there as well, they've been an incredible team. But now the only question is, they haven't been up front that much all day, if at all. So can they stay up there, or will some of these drivers who have been up front for longer kind of take advantage of their inexperience up here and just squeeze by them?
Mott, another one that is not won yet, but he's also not eligible for the chase because he hasn't done enough races this season. So at this point, he is here for the glory. Behind them, Halpern still kind of sitting, waiting patiently. Fanin Dacuna in there as well. Miller, I saw at one point, got out of line. He's come back into it. Has not been able to make it many inroads. He's down in 8th position. But effectively, the whole field is together. Hurley's the only one out there that is not with them. And I see Bryce Calusa also limping his car around. He could actually be a factor because they're coming up on him probably within this lap. You see the 20 on the screen now. Just out of the tri-oval as the others are just into the tri-oval. 23 laps to go.
And the rest of the stragglers, they've joined the back of the pack as well. So it's no longer 7 cars, it's the full 15. Everybody in the top 15 is in line here.
Things have changed so drastically here, and what more could we expect from Talladega, frankly, as it always has some sort of surprise waiting for you. If you just sit around for a little while, something's going to happen. And they approach the 20, now off of turns 4 and into the tri-oval once again. Should hang up to the high side if he sees them coming. Yep, now he's starting to drift up to the outside. Down to the bottom, and everybody is just going to easily cruise by. So thankfully, no issues here.
22 laps to go. And when I'm looking at the pit stops here, Evan Adams, David Mott Jr., the whole gang there, I don't think they can make it to the end. I just realized, because they've done 3 extra laps than those that pitted in the melee of pit stops that happened when the caution came out. But these guys, the ones that lost the draft, Mott, Adams, Weekly, Miller, not Miller, but those 3, and Clifton Cockrell and Mike Hurley, they're going to be very, very tight on fuel, if not completely impossible to make it to the end on fuel, because they're going to have to do like 3 extra laps. They're going to have to go about 34 laps, and that's 5 laps further than anybody else was able to make it last time.
Well, and Mott is up at the front too, pushing all the air, which means he is going to be wasting all the more. I'm kind of surprised they don't put Evan Adams in front of him, unless Adams is one of those that is slightly damaged and is basically using his lack of speed to help keep David Mott up there behind them. The 25 of Tim Downey Jr. attempts to go by some cars, but instead falls back behind Caleb Weekly in the Rainbow 10.
People say fuel strategy races aren't interesting, but I think they're very wrong, because I have absolutely no idea how this is going to end if we go green the whole way. Because I thought everybody would be able to make it easily with restarting 29 laps to go, but I completely ignored the fact that some drivers pitted under green even earlier and used up even more fuel under green, not even paying attention to the caution. So this is going to be dangerous stuff from the top 3, top 4.
Yeah, I have always thought that the fuel races are sometimes some of the most fascinating, at least when they develop naturally like this, where it is a giant question mark. It leaves us with a sense of tension, an unknowing of what will happen in the remaining laps, who has what cards, and hopefully we have some people who can bluff pretty well here. And it's a little bit of a look to get some fresh air for Evan Adams, but he allows the 4 to stay up in front of him for the time being. The 92 of Matthew Close started from 15th in this race. He is up 10 positions currently, and still looking very Halloween festive.
Yeah, I don't think maybe he didn't realize he still had the pumpkin on his car, but I don't care. It's fine. Keep it on there. People are doing Christmas stuff in stores already 2 months before that, so why not extend Halloween a couple extra months? So
hey, pumpkins are still very Thanksgiving, so
exactly.
Yeah, that's what he's thinking. A little bit of a gap forming now. Adams starts to drop Halpern a little bit. What is happening here?
I think this might be intentional. Halpern trying to back up the field a little bit to get a run, and then he and Finian might be able to jump to the outside with Close and Weekly and kind of swallow up these two, which actually might be what Mott and Adams need, because they need to save some extra fuel, and they are not doing that up there.
That's what I don't get. They had that monster run, so yeah, your instinct says, let's go to the front. But if it's like you said, maybe they know better on the fuel than we do. But if you were close like that, as we get a little bit of bumps here for Halpern from Dakuna, then they should have just hung at the back of the pack, try to save a whole lot of fuel, and then use their card late to try and get up to the front, see if they could challenge for the victory.
I think what they're hoping for is that we get some extensive cautions here and everybody comes in, so they don't lose anything because they have the track position and they end up on the same strategy as everybody. So it's a risk to take here, but if we do get a caution, it will pay off for them if everybody else comes in with them. But then the question is, will everybody come in with them if about 75% of the field actually has fuel to make it to the end and they can save even more under caution? So it's a very difficult strategy to pull off, but it's their only hope of winning this thing.
At least as it sits now, things could always suddenly change and switch around. We just don't know. 16 cars on the lead lap, but only 15 of them really in contention for the victory. As we come off of turn 4 yet again, Evan Adams doing a lot of poking his nose to the outside. I'm putting my camera close to his car to see if I can see any damage, and I don't see anything from my angle, so I think he's okay. So no sort of overheating that I'm expecting here. Behind them, if they're trying to back it up, they're really backing it up. The 26 is now a full 0.3 of a second behind. Oh, there's the push.
And he's going to try and move him forward, but they haven't really been able to do anything here as Finian is all over the place trying to push Halpern. They need to have maybe all 4 of these guys leading the second pack to go in the same place, move to the outside. But right now, it seems like they've got no interest in doing that. They're just falling back here to maybe rehearse the run they're going to try and get. That's the only explanation I can think of. Is it's a couple popper outers further back. That's Clifton Cockrell and Brad Allison. Looks like they're the first 2 who are going to try and move their way up to the front from the very back.
Is popper outers the technical term?
Of course.
Now, if you were Matthew Close or Caleb Weekly or guys like Tim Downey Jr., I kind of wonder if I keep seeing them fail to get these backing up moments to work, could you maybe pull a trick on them, let them try and back it up, and you yourself swing around them with the help of a friend and try and go by and take that gap away in front of them, get some track position?
I don't know. It's like a chess game out here. I have no idea what strategy is actually going to be effective, because I never could have told you that David Mott Jr. and Evan Adams would have been able to pass 15 cars to get to the lead here. So with 3 or 4 laps to go, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what anybody has under their sleeve? Jeremy Miller in 8th. We'll have to watch him. He probably knows what he's doing. He's probably got a strategy to make his way to the front. The Sim Motorsports cars are extremely separated. They're probably talking about something. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen here. And it looks very likely that we'll get a green flag finish, because they're going to be running single file for 10 more laps.
You say that. You say that, but I've seen weirder things happen here. So let's keep watching and keep our eyes on the prize down to the finish. They've also got Michael Hurley that I think they're going to be lapping before this race is over, making it only 15 left on the lead lap. Across the line once again to take it down to 13 laps to go here. It is coming down to the wire, especially for those fuel gauges. Still, those runs for Halpern and Dacuna, who are almost trying every single lap practically, just not working. It's
not working at all, and I just have to question, are they giving it everything they've got, or are they trying to save a little bit? Maybe not show their hand this early, because they might know the fuel strategy of Mott and Adams. They might know that they're a little bit short, so Halpern doesn't really need to take the lead here. He can just stick behind them two and save a little bit of fuel.
And Ben Lafter's trying to make moves around the outside. Again, he's a lap down. He's got no one to help him. He's actually not doing too badly, as he was making some positions all on his own for a brief moment. Might get a little bit of help from a friend. I think that is Clifton Cockrell, who's now jumped to the high side behind him in the 28. Now he starts to fall backwards. Already getting radio communication from Hurley asking where the leaders want him to go. I would recommend the high side, Michael.
And now Dacuna and Halpern are kind of streaking away from the rest, so it looks like we got 2 tandems up here. They're falling back more than they ever have now. That's like 10 car lengths, so they might be at the limit of the draft here. But this might finally be the time that they're able to get a run, because they've fallen back quite a bit. They're going to have quite a bit of momentum here. Will Halpern actually be able to do anything with it this time? Is he going to want to do anything with it this time? The answer is no. He just sticks in line again. But there's 5 cars on the outside. Tim Downey Jr. People are trying to make moves.
Miller's pushing. Oh, and into the wall goes the 25. Too hard of a push from the 30 of Miller. No caution, but that is race over for the 25.
And that wasn't too hard of a push. That was just a bad angle for a push. Miller was sliding to the right behind Downey, and when you do that, you get to the corner of the car, and if you're still trying to push him at that angle, it's a guaranteed turn into the wall. So Jeremy Miller, not going to be a very pleasant person for Tim Downey Jr., but he tried to do something. He screwed over Tim Downey Jr., but he's still up there, and he's still alive, and somehow, one way or another, Jeremy Miller's going to go from 8th to about 2nd or 3rd here.
Wow. And if you're Matthew Close, you've picked a very good partner until now, and leaves him out to dry. The 23 of Ray Massey is going to go with him. 92 has got to try and get picked up here by the 27 of Zach Carr. Carr tries to push him back forward. I was wondering if that was going to be a double-edged sword for Close, and tries to pick a little bit. Oh, side-to-side contact with Massey there.
Things are getting impatient and things are getting dicey up front. Drivers know that now is the time to make the move. You've got 9 laps to go. You're going to have to spend a couple laps getting that run going. And Jeremy Miller almost instantly, he knew where he was going. He took someone out in the process, but he's up into the lead from 8th in the space of about 2 laps. And now Massey and Carr, and it's a whole bunch of names who weren't up front about 3 seconds ago, and now they are.
And the good news is that Downey over the radio sounded like he was saying no worries about the incident, so I don't think he is all that mad. Looks like Miller has once again shown us how it's done here on the super speedways as we now crack into 8 laps to go. Close has his teammate with him, though. The 27 of Zach Carr is now pushing. Oh, but he's going to immediately go to the bottom in front of Mott as soon as he sees the opening.
Unfortunately, it looks like Casey Lakatos and Josh Banks have completely lost the draft. I didn't see when that happened, but they must have had one bobble and they've lost the pack completely. It's now only 11 cars in the lead pack. There's Finian DeCuna, Zach Halpern. They were closer to the front. Finian and Zach were 3rd and 4th, and they've been completely swallowed up. They're 9th and 10th now. Caleb Weekly's still there with them. They got to find one way or another to move their way back up to the front, but they weren't able to make a pass when there were 2 cars in front of them. I worry that they might not be able to make any passes with 8 cars in front of them.
It's what we talked about early on in this race, the skill that comes along with knowing how to race at super speedways. It looks so easy, and drivers are able to get up to the front until you get down here to the end, and then suddenly everybody pulls their tricks out of the bag. The 20 goes up to the high side. Bryce Calusa stays out of the way of the leaders. Don't think we have any other lapped cars that'll intervene. Yeah, none of them are in front. So it is going to be clean and clear racing to the finish if they stay green. We're now at 6 to go. Oh, and Mott Jr. just announced he's pitting in this lap. He can't make it.
That bodes terribly for him and for Evan Adams. They're both going to have to pit here, and I think that's why Evan's falling all the way to the back here. He's trying to stay out of everybody's way, but Mott Jr., he's going to be pitting from 5th, so everybody's got to be careful here. When he comes in, he's going to be slowing down, so don't rear end David Mott Jr. Zach Carr is going to be the biggest worrier here because he's all over the back of Mott Jr. Brad Allison falls down. Can Mott get out of the way easily here? Yes, he does. He pulls out basically right after turn 4. That's about as clean as can be. And he's got no pressure here, so he better not speed. Hey, he made it.
Oh, did he? Isn't it 50 miles an hour here? Yeah, I think it's 50 miles an hour. And he was at about 55 as he got to the line. Oh, I'm hearing it is 55, excuse me.
He should be okay.
Nolan Hodgson has rejoined the track, and that might actually be really bad news. He's not up to speed, and the leaders are coming up to him already.
Yeah, and while I always compliment the drivers who come out late in the race to pick up a couple extra laps, he can't do anything here. There's only 5 laps to go, and he's 30 laps behind Jeff Wright. So, I mean, good for Hodgson for wanting to finish the race and see the checkered flag, but he can gain absolutely nothing from doing this.
I really hope he's able to stay out of the way of our leaders because there is a huge speed difference. 177 for Hodgson compared to 188 for our drivers on the top spot, as it looks like Evan Adams finally comes in for his fuel as well. 4 laps to go. It is still Miller leading. Massey behind him. The 71 of Carwile in 3rd.
Now, the only other driver that I would be worried about is Caleb Weekly in 9th. So somehow, one way or another, nope, I think he pitted. I think I missed him. No, he didn't pit, but he's lost the draft. So either way, Caleb Weekly is probably going to have to pit in again. He's got one more lap of fuel left in the tank compared to Adams and Mott, but he's going to have to pit again. So Caleb Weekly going to drop out of the top 10 most likely, and that makes it only an 8-car battle up front. So while the pack expanded quite a bit to about 15 cars, it's now back to where it was before with only 8 drivers in contention.
3 to go. Where do you want to be, Joey? Do you want to be in Miller's position on the point? Do you want to be a car behind, taking a slingshot like we see right now on the high side? Matthew Close gets a run. He's going to bring Carr along with him.
Jeremy's in the best position here. If he can just hug that yellow line, Don't even give Massey like a hint that you're going to go up high, or let him stick the nose down there, and he should be okay. But it just depends. Is anybody going to be able to work together? Hodgson is going to get out of the way. He's not going to play a role here. But Miller, Massey, Carwile, Allison, Close, Carr, Halpern, and Dacuna are the last 8. 2 laps to go. Now's the time to make the move. You've waited long enough. Those 2 at the back, I would honestly go up to the high side just to help those 2 out and just do something that'll get you out of 7th and 8th.
Yeah, right now, the 27 and the 92 are pushing like hell. In fact, I think they've been pushing since the start-finish line. Finally, a little bit of a lift as he needs some air. Takes a gasp of breath. Penultimate lap here, but the 27 has had enough. He's going down to the bottom line, and Close no longer has a buddy. He's going to be able to get in just in time.
And if we cross the line here to get the white flag, there's going to be no caution, so this is the end of the race. If you're going to make a move, you're going to make it now. It is officially these 8. Look at Matthew Close on the high side. That's an incredible run from Close and Carr, but will they be able to bring it to the lead?
One last big push. Can he get through there? No, he starts to drop off. Oh, and the 23 makes the 30 start to bobble. It is getting sketchy again. No cautions happening from here. Massey gets turned. The 71 down below, and nobody is around to catch Miller out of this. Can there be a push? It looks like potentially Halpern and the 26 hooking up with the 27. Is there enough space here? The 03 and the 92 also might be able to get together. They have a big run, and now he switches to his teammate. Looks like Carr wants to help his teammate. Takes the dash for cash today. 3 wide. The 03 around the outside as they come to the line, but nobody can beat Jeremy Miller as he is just going to take the win.
That was a critical error from Brad Allison. He either didn't want to help Zach Halpern win the race, or he wanted to finish 3rd himself, but he finished 4th. If he pushed Halpern, I think Halpern would have won that race, but Allison just ditched him. He had a run. He didn't do anything with it, and that allowed those 2 teammates of Miller and Carr to work together and win the whole thing.
Wow. And essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars came across the line separated by 0.3 of a second. That's going to take us to a quick break. We're going to come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Talladega Super Speedway. Round 8 for the Outsiders Racing League sees our first repeat winner. And to very few people's surprise, it was Jeremy Miller, who is the master of these super speedways, won by 0.02 of a second over Zach Carr, his teammate. It was Zach Halpern finishing P3 with Brad Allison in 4th position. Matthew Close, who looked like he could maybe take the fight to Jeremy with about a corner to go, fell back to 5th in the end. Finian DeCuna was P6 and Ryan Carwile was 7th. Then you've got Casey Licatos finishing 8th today, Josh Banks in 9th, and Ray Massey rounds out your top 10.
Then in 11th, it was Evan Adams and David Mott Jr. in 12th with those unfortunate late pit stops, just not enough fuel in the tank for them. Clifton Cockrell, Ben Laughter, Mike Hurley all ran into trouble throughout the day. Bryce Caluso was 4 laps down. Tim Downey Jr. got slammed into the wall, and Jeff Wright and Nolan Hodgson round out the top 20.
And that takes us to our winner here today, Jeremy Miller, our first driver to get 2 wins on the season. And of course, the favorite here at the super speedways. Jeremy, how in the world do you do it at these 2.5 milers?
I mean, honestly, I don't really know what makes me so good at them. It's just, I mean, it's been for a few years now. Something just clicked one day, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. And since then, I've just, if I'm not winning them, I'm at least in contention for them typically. And I mean, it helps to have great help out there too. I mean, Zach Carr worked with me well all night. So did my other teammate, Matt Close. I made a move on him to win it. Felt a little guilty for it, but at the end of the day, I was in it for the dash for cash and just really, really wanted to get that one done.
And that you did. Now, you seem to have been hanging back for much of that last stint. We did see you run out of fuel at the end. Was that intentional? Did you have to really be light on your right foot for that final run?
Yeah, I was saving that entire run, actually. Was really mad at myself for not topping off. I just did the math completely wrong in my head, which is very much not like me. I've actually won fuel mileage races on a few occasions. Actually, when I went with 10 to go, I thought it would be plenty to get me to the end, but I got to the lead way faster than I even expected to, which made it really close. I ran out right after the line, like you said. So just, I did not want, it might sound weird, but I did not want to get to the lead as quickly as I did. So just happy it held on. I was lifting a little bit from the lead to keep Rhea in my bubble, and that was probably helping me save a little too. Wasn't doing that, might not have made it.
Well, regardless, as we get closer and closer here to the chase portion, you have your 7 races in. You've got 2 wins, so you're doubly insured to make it into those top 12. How do you like your chances once we get to the playoffs?
I don't like going out and like talking like a bunch of like, I'm the best type of stuff, unless it's a play track, in which case I absolutely am the best on the sim. But I think I'm got to be a favorite going into this, and I'm gonna go in with that attitude. I feel that typically I drive better when I go in with an attitude thinking I can win the race, which when I go into something thinking I can't win it, I never do. And so I feel like I'm just gonna carry an attitude that I think I can win this. Not going to lie, the playoff schedule is probably not the strongest of my tracks, but I think that if I can carry these playoff points, I don't think I'll be able to get to the top of the regular season points to get that 5 points. Had some pretty bad luck throughout the regular season here, but just carry those 6 points and see if I could use those as enough of a buffer to maybe just consistency them to death to win the championship.
Well, I like that power of positive thinking sort of strategy too. Congratulations on the win. Anybody that you want to thank for this one?
Yeah, everybody at Car Racing Designs, especially Zach, and he puts together these beautiful schemes. Went with me on the last lap there, which, as much as it was a teammate thing, the more I think that was probably his best chance to win the race as well. If he goes with Halpern, Halpern has more momentum than I do. If he goes with me, he can pull out and try to pass me with the less momentum I had, which he almost did. And I just barely had enough to hold him off, and I do thank him for going with me. I don't win that race if he goes with Halpern, obviously, but I don't think he did that 100% in my interest. And then I just got to thank my family in Florida for watching and supporting me and cheering me on.
Great stuff there from Jeremy Miller, our victor today. And actually, we can ask Zach Carr about what his interests were, as Joey has caught up with the 27 driver.
Well, we do have the aforementioned Zach Carr, driver of the number 27. Zach, you chose to do quite a selfless thing, and you pushed your teammate to the win instead of going for it yourself. Do you think you you might have had a shot at beating him to the line, or did you think that was the best possible chance just to push your teammate to the win and maybe pick up second?
To be completely honest, coming out of 4 when I went with Jeremy there, I wasn't even thinking about taking the win. I was focused on trying to push him straight, didn't make sure I didn't accidentally turn him down the side stretch there, and make sure he had a good finish. And then once I kind of came back to my senses, it was a little too late. It was pretty much the exit of the tri-oval, and I was like, oh well, I might as well go for the win. And at that point, it was too late. It was just getting caught up in the excitement, I guess.
Well, you certainly did help him to the win. It was his second win in a row, but what's the bonus of having teammates around here? We talked about it a few times, how there's a couple pairs or trios of teammates around here, but you guys were the most effective. How much does a teammate help at a plate track like this?
Oh, it helps a lot. I mean, it's just the security of knowing this guy's going to help me. When you're in line like that, and he knew Halpern was coming. I told him, I'm like, when Halpern goes, I'm gonna go with you. So he knows there's gonna be help coming. So even middle of the race, when somebody makes a move, you know where your teammate is. A couple cars back in line, help's gonna be there for you. Unless you have a teammate that doesn't, of course. But most of the time, it works really well between me, Jeremy, and Matt. I was really trying to get Matt up there at the end, going off into turn 1. He kind of drifted a little too high, and I had to back out of it. But I mean, we will work together really well tonight, all three of us.
Well, next week we cut the track length down quite a bit, and we go to Rockingham, which is, as different from Talladega as you can get in a way. How are you feeling about that track?
Well, I'll be back on the pit box for Jeremy and Matt as a team owner. So for them, I know Jeremy has the speed. He just needs to work on the consistency. As we seen last week at Bristol, he showed them really how fast he can be. But I'm hoping Jeremy can get a win there, and hopefully Matt as well. Another good strong run for him would be nice to see.
All right, and before we kick you out of here, you have anyone else you want to thank in addition to your teammates?
Nope, like I just said, the teammates, you guys for putting on the broadcast, and Brian Chambliss for putting on this league.
That was your second place finisher, Zach Carr, and we got one more from the 27 to the 26. It's another Zach. It's Zach Halpern.
Indeed. Third place today, Zach, but you were leading after that final restart and seemed like you had things pretty well under control. Our eyes about popped out of our heads when we saw the 4 and Adam suddenly blow up to the front. Did you expect that at all?
I was expecting someone to try and make a run towards the front because I knew that if I wanted to make it to the end, I had to save. And towards the end there, I only had about half a lap until the line, so I saved just the right amount. And I knew if I was in the lead, I'm not going to have enough gas towards the end, so I decided to save, and if someone wants to pass me, then go ahead.
Seemed like a common theme there on that last stint. We kind of theorized when we realized what the laps were going to look like, that many would have to try and do something. When it came down to the ends, it certainly looked like a typical plate race finish where it became every man for himself. Did you have any sort of strategy coming into that final lap?
On that final lap, I was pretty much just hold the gas. Hopefully I can find some lanes, and there was that wreck that thankfully I missed. And I knew that with the amount of space that was in between Jeremy and I, that if I had one person pushing me, I had the race won, guaranteed. And coming off of 4, I went to Jeremy's outside, and I saw someone else coming behind me. And I'm like, perfect, but they pushed it 3 wide. I guess that's what they thought would win them the race, but it's just like Alex Bowman at Daytona with Kyle Busch. If you push me, you give yourself somewhat of a chance to win. If you don't push me, you eliminate every single chance you have of winning. So it is what it is, though. If that's what he thinks would have won him the race, that's fine. Everyone has their own strategy. It's very frustrating being that close again and not getting things to go my way. But third place finish, I can't complain about again. Hopefully get the points lead here. I know Chad missed tonight, so maybe I can get the points lead and get some bonus points for the end of the season and playoffs.
Yeah, that is obviously going to become more and more of a talking point. How do you feel about heading off to Rockingham, one of the semi-defunct tracks here in the States, but obviously has provided quite a bit of an excitement every time we have gone and witnessed races here on iRacing there?
Rockingham's a good track, and I normally do struggle with it, so I'm going to hope that maybe I feel like I'm pretty good with this next-gen car. I feel like I have things a little bit figured out with it. Maybe I can pull out another top 5, even top 10, and I'm sure if I can get a top 10, I might be able to hold on to the points lead. It's just about keeping it clean next week, pretty much for me.
All right, well, we'll watch out for you. Who helped make this podium happen today?
As always, I gotta thank my teammate Tim. I don't know how it always happens, but he manages to get the short end of the stick and always get wrecked every single week. I don't know how it happens, but he's a good sport about it. He's a lot more calm than I would be in that situation. So let's just say that. And I want to give a shout out to Downey Enterprises as a team. I want to give a shout out to Toyota, and I also want to give a shout out to Jeremy and Zach. Also, we were working pretty well there at the beginning of the race. Also, I want to give a shout out to one of my friends, Hannah. She just got married tonight, and I left her wedding a little early to do this race. So I appreciate her being understanding, and I'm very happy for her. And I want to appreciate and give a thanks to you guys for doing such a great job on the broadcast and the admins as well.
Well, thank you very much. That was Zach Halpern, who sounded really pragmatic about his approach to that last lap there. But as we close up, we also want to thank the organizers and the league for coming to us to give them coverage for this season, but we want to thank the companies also that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. And thanks to the team today, Joey, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed here. And please check out our merchandise store. It's simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. And the next race, as we mentioned, will be at Rockingham, Saturday, November 13th at 9:50 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.